Part 136. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1356. Crouching opposite Gretel, you can see his eyelashes blinking slightly, as if they might lift at any time, revealing a bright pupil. But in fact, Gretel was still immersed in deep meditation and never woke up. He is still fighting against his chromosomes, and is still trying various methods over and over again. I want to guide the golden light on the chromosomes to extend into a golden chain, and extend the golden chain forward a little longer. Guide with your thoughts? Staring at a certain point on the chromosome, imagining that its golden light will slowly extend and make the next point light up, but to no avail. Guide the gifts of the world over, stick them at a certain point, and try to let the surrounding light up, but to no avail. Trying to mobilize energy, gather it near a certain point, and pour it into it, but to no avail. After many attempts, Greet could only sadly admit that he could not operate the chromosomes yet. Maybe what the worlds will fed back to him was just a shadow. Is he still too far behind to see his own chromosomes through internal vision? As for establishing his own chromosomes in the core of meditation and then feeding back from the inside out, Gretel has never even thought about it. The strips are just appearances, and the essence may be base pairs or it may be something more complex than base pairs. However, even if it is a base pair, he has to rely entirely on his thoughts to produce 3 billion base pairs, and then put these base pairs into 23 pairs of DNA chains. Kill him. Not to mention one advanced meditation, even 100 advanced meditations, he probably wouldn't be able to finish it. Not to mention, he hasn't done base pair sequencing on himself yet. If he was asked to do this kind of project in dozens of countries around the world, dozens of top laboratories, and cost $3 billion, he would not go crazy just thinking about it. Greet tried countless times and finally gave up. Guide the world's gifts and follow the old path. Use the will of the world to pinch out various cells in the meditation core, and completely advance your own meditation core to the cell level. The bones, cardiovascular system, eyes, ears, nose and tongue were taken care of before, the nerves and internal organs were taken care of last time, then, this time we have to finish the muscles, skin, and blood in one go. From top to bottom, from the inside out, from the hematopoietic stem cells in the bone marrow to the various stages of differentiation of blood cells from generation to generation. What eosinophilic hematopoietic progenitor cells, erythroid hematopoietic progenitor cells, neutrophil promyelocytes, mesomyelocytes, metamyelocytes, reticulocytes. When I was reciting the book, I was struggling, facing a full page, thinking that I am not a doctor in the hematology department, why should I recite it? But now that I have traveled to a different world, I can no longer touch the crystallization of modern medical wisdom. Only then did I thank the textbook for explaining everything to him in every detail. Cell. Cell. All kinds of cells. After pinching the blood, pinch the muscles, and after pinching the muscles, pinch the skin. After the skin was pinched, and the entire core of meditation was refined to the cellular level, Greet's whole body was suddenly shocked. An extremely powerful force was poured directly from the void. From head to toe, from the inside to the outside, every cell, every blood vessel, every bundle of nerves, and every bone. Those bodies that were made purely based on pictures and medical textbooks suddenly lived at this moment. The will of the world once again took over his meditative core. And, help him condense these discrete, unrelated cells into a whole and let them work like the human body. At the top of the ancient tree, Elder Fahim gently raised his head and opened his arms. Close your eyes, spiritual power is spreading everywhere, and you feel the mighty power. Ah! Compared to the last time, when he was guarding the little guy's advancement, the fluctuations of the worlds were stronger. It seems that the little guy's advancement must go smoothly. Around the ancient tree, Elder Melancilla's face condensed and she quickly raised her hand. The slender garland on the wrist flew out, took root on the ground, and quickly grew into a big tree, shrouding the ancient tree where Gretel was standing. It's not that he let the ancient trees he contracted with grab energy. The last time Gretel advanced, he was inside an ancient tree. Even so, the ancient tree didn't grab anything. However, the energy falling from the sky was doubled in an instant. Such a strong energy is going to drive the opponent crazy. Strengthen your defense. We must strengthen our defenses. This is playing with us. If I had known that the energy pouring down would be so strong, this time, a few more legends are coming. On the front line, Idion shook violently from the top of his head to his tailbone. He didn't care about conserving his strength, roared loudly, and unleashed the arrogance of a legendary warrior. Damn it! Damn it! The enemy on the opposite side is like crazy. Hit it with your head, hit it with your horns, bite it with your teeth, and flick it with your tail. Despite the severed limbs and the blown-out chest, we must rush over with all our might. If he cannot be stopped here, a large number of the compatriots around him will be killed or injured in an instant. What about support? What about the new force? Come quickly. A few more legendary warriors, a few more legendary spellcasters, and a few more legendary ancient trees. We must stop them here. In Idion's hand, the recast moon blade emitted clouds of cold light, and arcs of light kept flying out from the blade. Wherever it went, damaged bone claws, bone pincers, tail hooks, and even half or the entire head of the demon flew out quickly one by one. Opposite him, in the dark depths of the war, more than one big demon raised his head and stared at him. Want to go? Want to kill him? No, the important thing is not this guy, the important thing is. They raised their gaze, staring at the ancient tree behind the battle line, and at a new ancient tree that was quickly rising in front of the ancient tree. Behind the ground, there is a voice urging. Grab it, grab it. Swallow it, swallow it. Fly, run, dig tunnels under the ground. Come closer, come closer. That abundant, that powerful, that power that allows us to gain a foothold in this world is right in front of us, right within our reach. Livia Anson roared, urging. Even without his urging, a large number of demons had spread their flesh wings, flapped, fluttered, and flew upward. They don't even care about the sharp arrows that are constantly shooting from below. Once they hit, they can ignite a fire in their bodies. They couldn't care less, the fruits thrown out by the ancient trees in large numbers kept exploding among them. A little green is attached, and then it is covered with a piece of dark green moss, desperately absorbing their power. They didn't care either. Thunder, lightning, and ice blades were caught in the ground to sky whirlwind, and they were crushed into pieces one by one. Why? Why did the gift hanging from the opposite side suddenly become more than twice as powerful? World Wool, are you kidding me? Thanks to @Red Comet Mars for the reward of 10,000 starting coins. Thanks to @The Strong Sea Monster for the 4,500 starting coins reward. Thanks to @Book Friends 2018012719243530 and @Scarla C for the 500 starting coins. Thanks to @Shadow Phantom Grudge for the 200 starting coins reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1357. Quick. Quickly mobilize troops. Quick. 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 Livia Anson roared. At the same time, it stretched the upper half of its body out of the seal, tried its best, and let out a silent roar. The roar spread in waves. The sea water at the edge of the island also began to fluctuate continuously, the sand and gravel boiled, the sea waves became turbid, the corals broke, and the fish fled. Farther away, there are dolphins with dark gray skin and long fangs, huge sea snakes with barbs on their long tails, lobsters whose bodies are dozens of times larger than normal. Whistling, leaping, and rolling. Standing on the top of the ancient tree and looking from a distance, a black and gray wave reaches the ground and rushes towards the battlefield. The farthest point is just a black line, and when it reaches the offshore, it has become a black water wall, or in other words, a huge black cube. The height alone exceeds the top of an ancient tree. Here we go again, here we go again. Elder Melancilla murmured in a low voice. The enemy on the opposite side has controlled or rather polluted a part of the Sea Clan. Over the years, whenever the war situation becomes tense, the polluted Sea Clan will come riding the tide. However, she had only seen such a high tide and such a dense and powerful force in the tide 3 times in her long life. Every time, it was the legends of Everlasting Island who mobilized in large numbers, coupled with the power of the World Tree and the Well of Eternity, to repel the opponent's attack. This time, the intensity of the opponent's attack even seemed a bit desperate, and the Well of Eternity has not yet been able to restart. This time, I don't know how many legends will be deployed and how much of the family savings on Yangju Island will be consumed to withstand this wave. Little Greet, can't the time of his advancement be changed? Even, couldn't the location of his advancement be moved slightly? It's not necessarily impossible to interrupt for this reason. Just when he thought of this, the rejuvenated elven secret realm and the warriors who quickly replenished their blood and regained their fighting strength flashed through the mind of Elder Melancilla. She smiled and shook her head, shaking away those somewhat regretful thoughts. Little Greet has done enough for the elves, even too much. As for the rest, aren't they, the old guys, standing here just to protect the young people? Elder Melancilla raised his hand and patted the top of the ancient tree. Underfoot, the ancient branches and leaves swayed, exuding a faint floral fragrance. The breeze carries the fragrance of flowers and blows to the center of the island, blowing to every ancient tree on the twin islands. It also conveys the current crisis, the determination of the elders and the ancient trees to these ancient trees rooted in the place. The island is in crisis. Our children are in crisis. Please help us. Help us. Black, translucent tide, turbulently photographed. Facing the tide, a hill rose from the ground. The Earth Elemental Lord stretched out his body as much as he could, faced the tide, and let out a silent roar. On both sides of the Elemental Lord, Earth elements, large and small, are arranged in order according to their level, with their bodies next to each other, and their round spherical arms are connected with each other to form a city wall. Behind the city wall, the fruits that the ancient trees struggled to throw fell to the ground, sprouted and grew leaves, struggling to grow. In just a few blinks, it grew into a dense forest, relying on the city wall to become a second line of defense. Behind the woods, colorful lights composed of various spells overlapped layer by layer. The ground is concave, forming deep grooves, ready to redirect the captured tide back to the sea. Both sides are ready. There was a loud boom, and the violent wall of water hit the Elemental Lord, sending the earth and rocks above its head flying in all directions. On both sides of the earth and stone city wall, those shorter and smaller earth elements had their heads blown off, their arms smashed off, or most or all of their bodies were smashed into the ground. Large numbers of lobsters, octopuses, and conchs pounced on the earth element, making an astonishing gnawing sound. It was a squeaking sound that was horrifying even through several layers of defenses. The black tide surged through the earth wall, was filtered by the woods, and then carried large pieces of broken branches and leaves, and crashed into the magic defense. Then, blocked and guided by the magic defense, he turned a corner and rushed into the trench. Blocked. The 5 legendary casters who rushed over in a hurry all breathed a sigh of relief. The first wave blocked. But this is only the first wave, and only the beginning of the first wave. The sea people who came on the tide rushed slowly and hung on the tree tops, gnawing desperately on the leaves, branches, and trunks. Those who rush fast will collide with the spell defense and be ignited, frozen, electrocuted, and petrified by those spells. However, there are still a large number of dolphins, leaping high and slapping the spell wall with their tails. There is a sea snake that roars and wraps around the magic wall. Every time its venomous body is struck, it can leave deep marks on the magic wall. A huge shellfish crashed up, causing the magic wall to shatter into pieces. At the foot of the ancient tree in the distance, the faces of the legendary mage presiding and the elves surrounding him turned pale at the same time. Where are the reinforcements? Why haven't they come yet? Elder Magdamundia murmured. The tide gradually receded, and the enemies had already rushed up in large numbers. From the land and from the sky, the darkness covered half of the sky. Elder Fahim and Elder Dalron have raised their staffs and raised their heads to the sky. Around them, almost all the retreating elves raised their longbows, and the arrow tips shone with light. On the world tree, huge birds rushed down quickly. Halfway through the flight, it let out a high-pitched roar and started fighting with the black and gray demon in the air. Feathers are flying, flesh and blood are flowing down, large and small, like a black and red rainstorm. Elder Melancela stood on the top of the tallest ancient tree, looking back. In the sight of the legendary elder, Yangju Island lit up little by little. A green star. Strips of green light. Starlight and light bands intertwined into a large net, with the highest world tree as the apex, floating upwards. Then, it stretches forward for a section and connects to the ancient trees on the edge of the large fissure. The green light network expands, under the hood. Reinforcements are coming. The magic circle on Yangju Island has been activated. With this wave of reinforcements, we can hold on for at least 1 to 2 days. Little Greet, work harder and complete the advancement quickly. With so many people watching over you, you must have everything go smoothly. Greet. Greet is still meditating. The core of meditation continues to absorb the gifts of the world's will, and continues to become more agile and vivid. The light man begins to rise and fall with his chest, open his eyes and turn his head, raise his hands and kick his legs. Outside the core of meditation, the various structures, molecules, atoms, alpha rays, gamma rays, cells, and viruses that are floating and sinking also light up one by one. And the outermost layer of the meditation world continues to expand outward, expand, and expand again. The sun rises and the moon sets, and the moon sets and the sun rises again. On the second and third days, the magic circle blocked countless waves of attacks, and after 2 rounds of reinforcements from the legends, the curled green dots on the top of the oak staff finally unfolded into sprouts like rice grains. Thank you please call me William. Thank you for the 5,000 starting coins. Thanks its GU's reward of 1,500 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1358. Okay. Is the advancement completed? It should be done, right? The elves poked their heads around and talked quietly. Although the green dot on the top of the oak staff is small, it cannot escape their eyes. Moreover, they also know clearly the relationship between the number of leaves on the oak stick and the owner's level. The 14th green leaf has begun to grow, indicating that Gretel's advancement is going very smoothly and will be completed soon. Once that is done, they can shrink their defense and choose a more flexible style of play. It's so pitiful that they have been here for 2 days and 2 nights. Hurry up and grow up this leaf, hurry up and grow up. Look, you have grown to the size of a grain of rice or the size of a soybean, just try harder to grow it. Once the leaves grow to normal size, we can withdraw. Only Elder Fahim was not optimistic about the hopes of his colleagues. Looking at everyone's expectant eyes, he sighed and shook his head. In addition to being a natural priest, little Gretel is also a magician. I asked him before, and he said that the natural priest's advancement has been completed. He has just succeeded half of it, and there is still half of it to come. What? The legends were older, higher ranking, had seen a lot of the world, and were able to keep their emotions stable. Less than half of their assistants, students, subordinates, and soldiers who came to support them screamed out. What, half more? I've already been there for 2 days and 2 nights, and I have to do it for another 2 days and 2 nights? The conscience of heaven and earth supports 2 days and 2 nights, and 4 days and 4 nights are completely different things. The former tried his best, while the latter squeezed out every ounce of bone marrow. The front line screamed, and the rear also screamed. In the royal court, the queen's face was as dark as water, one hand resting on the world tree, her eyes closed gently, her brows furrowed. Deep in my heart, wails from all directions kept ringing. How long will it take? How long do I need to hold on? My reserves of strength are almost exhausted. If I can hold on for another 2 days, I won't be able to advance for a long, long time, for a long, long time. Can't it be faster? My roots hurt so much. My tree trunk hurts so much. Those ancient trees that worked hard to provide strength, those ancient trees that were deeply rooted in the ground and became the nodes of the Yangju Island magic circle, wailed one after another. The queen could only spread her mental power and transfer it through the world tree, trying to appease them. Support me a little more, please support me a little more, I'm sorry. A very important child in our tribe is advancing. The child Yggdrasil likes is advancing. Please protect him a little more. Even busier is the Well of Eternity project team. The legendary elders and disciples, together with Archmage Baebo, were very anxious. Can't the Well of Eternity be activated yet? There are still some things that I haven't figured out yet. If I haven't figured it out yet, and I haven't finished calculating it, I definitely can't start it. Can't you force it to light? If we forcefully ignite it now, a large part of the well wall will be destroyed, and the progress will be delayed for many months. Then when will it be over? I don't know. No news from Nevis has come yet. Now communication with the outside has been cut off, and we can't receive information for the time being. Can't you hurry up? Quickly? How fast? Otherwise, I will go to the battlefield first. My junior brother, I have the responsibility to protect him. Archmage Baebo threw the chip in his hand and started to leave. 3 or 5 elves rushed to stop him. Don't. Don't. There are our soldiers over there, there are legendary elders, many of them. Please continue to participate in the calculation. The faster you calculate, the faster it will start. Hey, when will little Gretel be able to advance? Can't he be faster? Some people hope that Greet will finish it faster, and naturally, there are also people who hope that he will finish it slower. In the deep darkness of the ground, Livia Anson once again retreated behind the barrier, letting the black fire burn on her body and gnashing her teeth. Slow down, must be slow. The flesh and blood of the Sea Clan and the flesh and blood of demons rained down. They do not disappear as soon as they hit the ground, but follow the cracks in the soil and rocks and sink deeply into the ground. The entire soil, the entire rock plate, and even the underground water veins are being corroded by these flesh and blood, and black bubbles are popping up. The soil went from vibrant to dark and eerie. The rock plate changes from hard and stable to crisp and cracked. The water veins changed from clean and peaceful to sour and dirty. Soon, soon. Given some more time and some more flesh and blood, the scope of corrosion will reach right below that little guy. At that time, the person, the ancient tree, and the soil and ground below will plummet thousands of feet into the dark underground world. Before that, the little guy who is favored by this world must not escape. Roar. It raised its head hard, broke through the world barrier, and stuck out ahead from the gap. Amidst the huge roar, the sea tribe and the demons started running again, with blood raining down in torrents. Gretel frowned slightly. He felt disturbed. The infusion of the will of the world is still surging, and after adjusting his meditation core, it begins to cause his meditation core to resonate with the physical body. Every cell and every piece of tissue in the physical body begins to receive the will of the world through this resonance, and receives a new round of adjustment and improvement. Every spell model inscribed in the meditation world, especially the spell model he created himself and framed with world gifts, began to be strengthened. And new spell models began to take shape. However, in this process of adjustment and improvement, I always feel that there is some force interfering beside me. Buzzing, 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 not strong, and it didn't make him feel dangerous, but it was annoying. It's like a summer night when you turn off the lights and fall asleep, but there's always a mosquito buzzing in your ear. When I get up and turn on the light, I'm afraid that I won't be able to hit it. If I don't get up and turn on the light, it will be so noisy that I can't sleep. What the hell is this? Forget it, never mind, let's advance quickly. First adjust the meditation environment and set up the spell model, and then look at these things. He adjusted his mentality and fell into deeper meditation. The meditation method I learned when I first entered Thunderhorn is no longer fully applicable now. During this period, the information dug out in the Magic Academy was guided by Elder Fahim and Elder Emmett, and he consulted the teacher through the Mage Tower. Some time ago, he constructed a brand new meditation system. Absorb the world's abilities, materialize the meditation world, and prepare to advance to legend after reaching level 15, all in one fell swoop. The spiral-shaped meditation shell with countless pores and filter holes slowly softens, dissociates, and expands. The emerald dream syncs and connects with Gretel's spiritual world. The gift of the world's will has once again sunk for a while. Molecules, atoms, electrons, various cells, various tissues, and various configurations of chromosomes all began to shine one by one. A new system is beginning to take shape. Thanks to Sakaka Sonata for the 100 starting coin reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1359. Gretel's new meditation system was set up very smoothly. For any magician, this would have to be tried and polished over and over again, and revised for a year or even several years under the supervision of the teacher. But Greed has a cheating device. He had stored the finalized meditation system in the meditation core in advance. It was a three-dimensional version and could be seen clearly from any direction. At this moment, all you need to do is project the meditation system, and paste every node, line, and surface with the gifts of the world. If it were another magician, he might have to absorb magic power, filter magic power, and adjust magic power at this stage. Gretel doesn't have this trouble. He is showered with large sums of gifts from the world. It's just that the smoother he builds it, the more anxious others become. Especially the 5 legends around them, as well as the 3 new legends who came for reinforcements, stared at the trembling magic circle above their heads, frowning. Although the power of the Yangju Island magic circle is powerful, the power that can be transmitted to the Great Rift in a short period of time is still limited. If the magic circle cannot withstand it, we must rely on legends like them to pick it up. We must rely on warriors and young children to carry it. And it is impossible for Yangju Island to dispatch more legends. The operation, sorting, and maintenance of the magic circle also require legends, and the protection of the royal court also requires legends. Various important locations also need fixed point guarding by legends, just in case. Although Yangju Island is big, there is always a part of the power that cannot be moved. The power mobilized by mobile, 8 people came at one time, was already trying their best, no more, even the surrounding natural power would not be enough. Little Greet, you have to hurry up. Opposite the magic circle, Livia Anson roared angrily. 3 days and 2 nights, no matter the cost of pollution, collision, and erosion, I saw that success was getting closer and closer. However, the gifts from the world pouring down from the opposite side seemed to be thrown into a bottomless pit, being swallowed and stored endlessly. Every time he swallowed a little bit, Livia Anson's heart began to tremble. That's his. His. If all these powers were his, he would have been able to break free from the shackles of the world and walk sideways in this world. What kind of rejection, what kind of targeting, what kind of restrictions and attacks, they don't exist. But now, a lot of this power has been swallowed up. Even if it eats that guy, it doesn't know whether it can get it back, whether it can get it back completely. Attack again, it roared, driving away its most powerful subordinate. Shauti, Batrick, Gazelle, you and your men, charge again. Whoever rushes and grabs it, this power belongs to whom, I won't compete with you. As he spoke, he put his sharp claw into his mouth and bit hard. The 3 claw tips, dripping with black blood, flew towards the 3 subordinates. Go. Go quickly. Whoever dares not to try his best, I will eat him first. The 3 men were shocked. They took the tips of Livia Anson's claws, crawled on their knees and swallowed them hard. Soon, they looked up to the sky and roared. The claw tips of Sauti's 6 feet were all barbed, and a black cloud of poisonous insects was buzzing around him. A new pair of fleshy wings grew out of Butterick's back, and the carapace on his body became darker and brighter. But Gazelle didn't see much change, except that the black scales on his body turned from bright deep black to dull, and the horn on his head also had lines. As soon as it lowered its head, its body arched and shrank, it plunged into the underground water veins. Behind him, a large group of snake-like and earthworm-like demons, large and small, guarded him, creating sparkling ripples in the black water veins. Go. Drill. Hit. Fight, corrode. Time, the most important thing right now is time. The only one who is unaware of time is Gretel. After he established a new meditation system, he immediately felt that he was absorbing the world's gifts more than twice as fast. Very good, next is the last step. Engraving this advancement, meditate on the new magic unique to the world. Compared with the last time I advanced, there are too many choices this time. Blood replenishing magic, fluid replenishing magic, if possible. Gretel would even like to rub the electron microscope with his hands, and engrave this magic of rubbing the electron microscope with his hands. However, he really doesn't have the strength, so he can only think about it. Maybe, next time, or the next time you advance, you can rub your hands directly and observe the chromosomes directly. As for now, it is of course the 2-in-1 magic of blood replenishment and fluid replenishment. Automatic detection of heart rate, blood pressure, blood oxygen, automatic human body tracing, automatic detection of appropriate blood vessels and bones. Automatically injects liquid into the appropriate blood vessels, and also comes with a heating magic to maintain the temperature of the injected liquid. At the same time, it automatically searches for suitable bones to promote the rapid differentiation of hematopoietic stem cells and turn them into blood cells. By the way, I also included no material required for casting a spell. Anyway, the raw materials for Ringer's solution are not expensive. Whether it is distilled water, sodium chloride, potassium chloride, or sodium bicarbonate, they are all covered by no materials for casting. This saves the rescuers from having to search for test tubes of Ringer's solution all over the place for infusion. If you don't have the materials in hand, you can't cast this spell. Wouldn't that delay a big thing? Greed framed it with great pleasure. The biggest gain this time is to understand the adaptive nature of healing and connect it with necromancy. Look at it with a broad perspective. Whether it is survival or death, it is part of the cycle of this world. Whether it is treatment or destruction, it is the natural law of this world. They were not supposed to be in opposition. They were once forces emerging from chaos at the same time. Frame by frame, node by node. The Milky Way hung upside down above, and the world's gifts rolled down. Greed suddenly felt that his heart was empty, and his spirituality began to alarm frantically. What happened? What happened? Above their heads, two big demons roared in unison, leading countless little demons to pounce down at high speed. The invisible and qualityless magic defense shows a large area of light green color, recessed to the inner limit. Under the feet, the one-horned giant snake urged its followers to gnaw upwards at the earth. Around the ancient tree, a circle with a radius of nearly 1 mile and a width of dozens of meters was formed, almost reaching the ground. And Livia Anson urged the leaking dirty blood to concentrate in that circle, working from bottom to top, trying her best to penetrate. A large hole was torn open in the pale green light net. The elders raised their staffs in unison, and huge wind blades, thunder, and fire pillars met the demon that flew down. There was a loud bang. The demons flew up upside down, spilling blood into the sky, while the elders, and the giant tree they were standing on, all shook and fell straight down. Watch out! Watch out! Watch out for little Gretel. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1360. Chapter 1355. Gretel Nordmark opened his eyes. Careful! 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 The elders shouted loudly to remind each other. As he reminded me, he quickly started taking action. Elder Melancela's eyes narrowed, and he jumped from the ancient tree. He contracted to the ancient tree where Greet lived. The toes had just touched the tree tops, and a little green light had already lit up between the flying long hair. The roots of the ancient tree where she stopped had begun to grow and grow crazily. The main root and the thick root penetrate hard, and the fine root grows side by side, connects, and wraps up the soil. No energy. Supplied by legendary elders. Don't know how long it is. Commanded by the legendary elder. The only requirement is to grow quickly, densely, and in layers to cover the thickest layer of soil as possible. If an enemy rushes up from under the soil, you must issue a warning in advance. Elder Emmett gently stamped his feet and waved a series of gestures. Following his movements, countless spell runes lit up and disappeared, and then lit up. The black wind flowed past the huge clod composed of ancient trees and soil, making a violent hissing sound. However, under the elder's magic defense wall, there was no sound of wind shaking the branches and leaves of the ancient tree. As for scratching Greet's side and shaking his meditation, that is even more impossible. Other elders also used their own methods. Some enhance magic defense, some try to use spells to hold up fallen ancient trees, and some quickly spawn the surrounding vegetation in an attempt to reconnect with the surrounding earth. Even if you let these big trees grow sideways and rest directly on the ground, that would be good. Sirara did not participate in their busy work. She screamed and jumped off the ground. Gretel. While still in mid-air, her body began to expand violently and deform, with its dragon wings and tail stretching outwards. Several thick branches gently moved out of the way, making room for her to wrap her wings around Gretel. The dragon's tail circled around and swayed gently, ready to whip any enemies that suddenly appeared. The slender dragon's neck lowered its head warily, its eyes constantly scanning the surroundings, its chest rising and falling, and it fiercely stored up a mouthful of dragon breath. Whoever dares to get close to Gretel, I will spray that bad guy to death. When there was a problem on site, the magic circle in the center of Yangju Island was also alerted. The queen groaned, held her forehead, and frowned. The plain white cheeks were so red that they were almost bleeding for a while, and then quickly faded to pale. The shock of the magic circle being broken caused a great impact to her, and even directly ejected her mental power. The queen gritted her teeth, endured dizziness, and tried to forcefully reconnect, but a call sounded deep in her heart. Mother. Mother, I'll come. Anio. No. The queen screamed in her heart. However, the clear, even childish voice of the young man fell silent after laughing. Immediately afterwards, a huge spiritual power quietly surfaced, replacing the queen and taking on the pressure of the Yangju Island magic circle. Guide. Combing. Repair. Cycle. A pair of invisible hands guides the circulation of the power of the magic circle. Anio. Don't do this. Your body can't support it for long. Give the control of the circle back to your mother. Give it back to your mother. The queen kept calling in her heart. Her long-term authority and powerful mental power allowed her to sense the changes in the magic circle, but she was completely unable to regain control. Moreover, she was afraid of taking it back with force and hurting her son, so she could only close her eyes and silently feel. Near the large fissure, the collateral circulation opens, energy rushes in quickly, the damaged parts are quietly healed, and the mystery lock regains its brilliance. Resist, deflect, divert, treat, correct direction. However, such repairs can be of great help to the soldiers who are fighting bloody battles on the battlefield, but they cannot be of much help to the ancient trees that have begun to fall. Too big. The weight of the ancient tree and the weight of the soil where the ancient tree took root was simply too great. Livia Anson commanded the demons under his command and cut out a full cylindrical shape with a radius of 1 mile. It is certainly not easy to complete such a huge workload, but when it is completed and has begun to fall, the power is overwhelming. Boom. 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 Click, 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 click. The former is the sound of ancient trees and soil falling rapidly and breaking through the rock slabs below. The latter is the sound of the rapidly growing tree roots and trunks around them being pulled or broken one by one. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Soon, the soldiers who first stood on guard under the canopy raised their heads, looked at the sky like a deep well above their heads, and subconsciously clenched their weapons. Then, Cyrilla lowered her head, simply breathed out, and built a thick ice wall around Gretel in a 10-meter radius. Finally, Elder Melancilla, who was standing at the highest point, had a serious expression on his face and stepped slightly on the ancient tree with his toes. Following her movements, the ancient tree quickly pulled out more branches, which were densely packed and wrapped around Greet and Cyrilla layer by layer. On the branches, the young leaves emitted a sparkling light, illuminating the inside clearly. Even if a demon tries to sneak in, the light emitted from these leaves will provide early warning. In a hurry, they only had time to make these preparations. The ancient tree fell downwards with the soil at its roots, as if it would never reach the end, and above the crown of the tree, a black meteor appeared. Livia Anson, go all out. Defense. Elder Melancilla crossed her arms into a cross, and a sharp light shone between her palms. Defense. Elder Amat raised his arms high, and from the deep well-like sky, a beam of blazing light fell straight down. Defense. Elder Masray struck out his staff, and as the earth shook and the mountains shook, the earth elemental lord stretched out his body from the dark cave wall. The blazing light fell, illuminating the black meteor and the tree crown below the meteor. The moment it comes into contact with the light, the meteor burns, disintegrates, and differentiates, and in an instant, 1/3 of its size is lost. The remaining meteors hit the earth element lord. Bang 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 bang, the huge body of the elemental lord was smashed into pieces and disappeared back into the elemental world, while another third of the black meteor was removed. Finally, the remaining meteors encountered the defense of Elder Melancira and disappeared like boiling water and snow. But this is only the first blow. Before the elders could breathe a sigh of relief, thick miasma and black blood clouds hit their faces again. Hold onto. Hold onto. Hold on for a while longer, and reinforcements from World Tree will arrive. It's rare for this enemy to show up. Let's seize this opportunity and give it a hard blow. The elders shouted to encourage each other. The energy on Yangju Island is surging, and huge, pure power, centered on the World Tree, has begun to condense. As long as you persist for another half day, 1 day, or at most 2 days, you can give your opponent a hard blow, and then grab the little Gretel who has completed the advancement and leave. The offense and defense were in a stalemate for a while. Livia Anson has almost poked out her entire body from the crack. Every time a sharp claw burning with fierce black flames hits it, 2 or even 3 elders need to work together to catch it without any damage. However, the defense formed by the 8 elders' constant rotation cannot be defeated immediately by this super-level demon. Go faster. Be stronger. To break free from the shackles of the world, even just for a moment. Livia Anson looked up to the sky and roared. Suddenly, its 2 fleshy wings broke and flew up, dripping with blood, and all the black fire was concentrated on the fleshy wings. After drawing away the black fire, it raised its claws together and smashed down with all its strength. The power of this blow tore apart the entire space, causing ripples. Everyone works together. Elder Amat shouted. In an instant, yellow light, green light, colored light, and runes all rotated to form an invisible and thick wall. Livia Anson swung her claws down, as if she had smashed into extremely thick and tough rubber, sinking inch by inch with difficulty, and the invisible wall creaked and cracked inch by inch. Above the head, the power gathered by the World Tree has changed from thick to sharp, with a cold light, and the mountain rain is about to come. Gretel Nordmark opened his eyes at this moment. In his eyes, the stars were tilted upside down. Thanks to @book friend 2022121422471591 for the reward of 500 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Giolan 2020. Chapter 1361. Gretel's inscription of magic was still going smoothly this time. With enough support from the world's gifts, he encountered no obstacles at all in outlining the spell structure. Moreover, the blessing of the worlds will also gave him sufficient authority. You can throw 2 parallel spells together, or you can throw only the blood replenishing magic or the rehydration magic. You can cast spells by touch, or you can cast spells from a distance. The will of the world thoughtfully increases his casting distance. He can even cast spells on a single target or in a range. As long as his mental power and magic power can sustain it, it doesn't matter if he can cover an area at a time and treat hundreds of people. However, this time after the engraving magic was completed, Gretel did not declare the end of the advancement and wake up immediately as usual. Instead, he was led by the will of the world, rising quickly and looking down. The ancient tree where he lives, and the elders who are waiting outside the ancient tree. Wave after wave, the black mist comes in waves, and the monsters rush out from the wounds of the world. The magic circle of Yangju Island, the ancient trees struggling to support it, and the shining nodes. And, the power concentrated by the magic circle through the world tree, and the gifts of the world pouring down from the sky. I see. Is this your will? Is this the result you want? Do you want to give these intruders, cancer, and hateful guys a hard blow? I know I'll help. Gretel opened his eyes, raised his head, and raised his hands. The palm is stretched out flat and turned slightly inward, as if holding the hilt of a sharp sword. Pinch your fingers together and continue to lift. In a place invisible to the naked eye, the world's gifts are vast and connected with the power of the world tree. And the power of the world tree has summarized and mobilized the power of the entire magic circle. Rise. In just this moment, Gretel's face turned from rosy to pale, and his knees subconsciously bent down. Although this pressure acted on his spirit rather than his body, the pressure was so strong that he had never withstood it before, and he almost fell down, Too strong, too strong. With such powerful energy, almost the entire magic circle of Yangju Island was pressed against him. A conservative estimate is that only 5, 6, or 7 or 8 legends can mobilize the power. How can he withstand it? However, the will of the world came to his aid in time. The world tree adjusts the power of the magic circle, and the world will gathers the power of the world tree. In the end, only a sword hilt-shaped thing is left, which he takes over and leads. Aim in front of you, aim at the big rift, aim at the dark and dirty black shadow that is stuck on the defensive wall in the stalemate battle, and smash it down. It was so vast that the stars and rivers fell upside down. That huge long sword, with the entire Elf Island magic array as the sword body, the energy condensed by the world tree as the sword, and the world's will as the blade, cut straight through the floating clouds, down to the Jedi Age, and fell straight towards the black shadow. There is no beginning to the straightness, no top to the lifting, no bottom to the case, and no side to the movement. When it fell, it seemed like it was still a shadow, sinking into the ground and into the rock formations, not even disturbing a single weed or a grain of sand. However, as soon as it entered the space below, it exploded with powerful power. The edge of the sword blade had just been exposed, and the filthy demonic energy in the cave had begun to burn crazily. The demons flying in the air and crawling on the cave walls howled and fell, some of them burning up in mid-air. Livia Anson raised her head high. The front two eyes blinked rapidly, the pupils were filled with colorful colors, and beams of light swept outward. The two protruding compound eyes in the middle have no eyelids or anything like that, but the scene reflected inside becomes increasingly weird and unpredictable. In the last row, two eyes with long stalks swayed even more like windmills. While turning, he struggled hard, gave up the attack, and began to retreat hard. Hold on. Hold on. Keep it. Elder Amat shouted. Amid the shouts, the gems on the top of his staff exploded 3 times at once. The pure power was released and rushed directly into the magic barrier, strengthening the tough and sticky barrier with another layer. Elder Amat is like this, and other legendary elders will not hold back at all. Suddenly, green trees, black rocks, lightning, strong wind, strong light, fire. Various energies intertwined rapidly. The barrier in front was filled with colorful lights, pieces shattered, and pieces healed, trembling, falling apart, but never completely shattered. Until that sword fell. Silently, press gently. As soon as he touched the huge demon, incomparable flames were ignited on it. Pressing down further, the carapace shattered, the thorns shattered, and the broken flesh wings on the back creaked and burned, all the way deep into the body. Pressing down further, starting from the spine, or, starting from the center of the back, huge cracks extend downward, and the parts broken from the body surface quickly turn into fly ash. Livia Anson let out a shrill scream. Amidst the huge sound, the rock formations overhead shook, and large pieces broke and shattered. The spell barrier built by the elders jointly showed ripples visible to the naked eye. Even the huge silver dragon in the center of the defensive circle, with its wings folded to protect Gretel, frowned unbearably. Gretel seemed unaware. He closed his eyes slightly and let his mental power expand to the maximum. He held the long sword in the dark with both hands and stabbed steadily. Cut the enemy's body into pieces. Knock off the enemy's head. Cut off the enemy's claws and tail. Completely eliminate this enemy, the invader that the world hates. Click, click, click. Click, 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 click. The long sword stably embedded itself from the center of the demon's back, roughly where the spine was, splitting it in half. Blood flowed freely, and bones, muscles, and internal organs burned one after another, causing violent explosions one after another. Kill it. Good, kill it. Victory is at hand. Gretel silently cheered himself up. He desperately squeezed his mental power, controlled the big net, controlled the giant sword, and made sure not to let the enemy escape at all. The blade goes from top to bottom. Split the head, split the spine, split the abdomen, sweep across the paws. Sweep, sweep, be sure to sweep clean. Boom. An earth-shaking explosion. The defensive array suddenly recessed forward, and the elders all let out a muffled groan. Above their heads, the hard rock formation bulged upwards visibly to the naked eye. Then, the layers collapsed and fell like a torrential rain. In the smoke and shock waves, Livia Anson's body, which was about to fill the cave, had broken into large pieces and burned fiercely. Alas! In the dark, Greed seemed to hear the will of the world and let out a low cry of regret. The parts within the barrier of the world all cracked and burned. However, the part outside the barrier, the tip of a small tail left there by Livia Anson, was not affected, but fell silent in time. Come down. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Greed had no time to care about this. The huge explosion has affected the ground. The earth shook and the mystery chain trembled. Those elves who fought bloody battles were affected in large numbers. They were injured by flying stones and fell into cracks in the ground. Save them. Save them. Thank you for the 1,500 starting coins rewarded by travelers who fight for their dreams. Thanks to book friend 20220901233351097 for the reward of 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1362. Gretel subconsciously raised his hands to the sky. The violent explosions are still continuing, and the power of the giant sword and the power of demons are still entangled. In the underground world, large numbers of demons are still exploding, burning, wailing and struggling. But these are no longer the main enemies. As soon as the strongest big demon in front of them exploded, the defensive walls of the elders immediately expanded outwards, and some even turned to attack and began to sweep away the small and medium demons. After all, even medium-sized demons have legendary, or near-legendary power. Instead of using a magic circle to sweep, but using the power of a single person to kill, the efficiency is really low. Elder Fahim jumped up, facing the pillar of skylight cast from above the deep well, and flew high to the surface. As the ultimate healer in the fertile forest, he has the most experience in both single-target treatment and large-scale treatment. He is very anxious at the moment and just wants to quickly treat the children above. He increased his speed as fast as possible. If he hadn't considered the large-scale treatment after a while, he would have almost transformed into a swift, a golden dragon would not work. The transformation speed would be too slow and would waste time. At this time, it would be good to waste 1 minute or 1 second less. He leaped at high speed, almost whistling in the air. However, even so, when the elder emerged from the ground, he still only had time to see gentle white light pattering in the sky, falling like rain. Treat. 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 Stop bleeding, maintain vital signs, straighten bones, connect muscles, replenish blood. It fell on the soldiers who fought bloody battles, on the soldiers who fell unconscious on the ground, and even penetrated under the earth and rocks, and fell on the soldiers who fell into cracks and pits and were buried in the earth and rocks. Such extensive treatment. Such a large-scale and powerful treatment. Elder Fahim looked up at the white light, feeling dazed for a moment. Looking down from the sky, it is gentle and abundant, peaceful and compassionate. He had seen such brilliance once before, during the summer solstice festival, when the queen, who used to be a princess, danced on the top of the world tree. In line with her dancing, Lady Silver Moon shed silver light from the sky, bringing comfort to all her people. But now, could it be that after they killed the demon, Ms. Silver Moon took pity on the injured children again? No, that's not right. Elder Fahim lowered his gaze, and his eyes suddenly condensed. The healing light on the battlefield includes, in addition to gentle and tranquil white light, 4 colors of light: black, red, yellow, and green. In addition to the colorful light, there were even light screens floating near the soldiers, with the numbers and lines on them constantly beating. "Gretel, stop," he couldn't help but shouted. "You don't want your life." With such a large scale and powerful treatment, even he, a legendary healer, needs to do his best. Little Gretel has just advanced to level 14. How did he do it? How dare he? Even if something happens to him, nothing can happen to this child. Even though Gretel was just a few hundred meters below him, and with his mental power, he could completely sense the little guy's condition, the elder still didn't dare to believe himself. In shock, he almost turned around and rushed back to where he was. At this moment, a steady voice came from below. "He's okay. I'm here." It was the voice of Elder Ahmad. This great elder has always been calm, reliable, and very friendly to Gretel. Elder Fahim breathed a sigh of relief, calmed down, and began to treat the wounded on the battlefield. While giving treatment, I still couldn't help but feel uneasy. What happened to this kid, little Gretel? Gretel launched such a large-scale healing technique without using his own power at all. In the dark, he just let go of his mind, communicating with the will of the world, communicating with the Emerald Dream, communicating with the ancient trees under his feet, and communicating with the entire magic circle of Yangju Island. "Help! Help! I will tell you everything I know, and ask you to do your best to save your compatriots on the battlefield above." The meditation core is operating at full strength, projecting each spell model to the ancient tree, to the Emerald Dream, and to the magic circle above. Please study, please memorize, please. Use these spell models to activate healing magic in a large area. Gentle white light falls like rain. When the white light disappeared, Gretel finally opened his eyes. He looked left and right in the darkness, feeling a little confused for a moment. It wasn't until a ball of light rose up and he looked again at the light of the ball that he burst into laughter. "Cirella!" Gretel raised his voice. He raised his hand, and a mage's hand flew out and scratched the dragon wings that wrapped him far away. "I'm fine. Thank you." The dragon wings opened slightly. The silver light shrank and faded like water, and soon, what caught Gretel's eyes was Cirella's gentle and charming face that was both happy and angry. "Gretel! You succeeded. Oh, it's so dangerous this time." "I know." Greet jumped lightly, jumped down from the horizontal branch, and landed next to her. He held her with one arm, turned around, and bowed slightly to the busy elders around him. "Thank you." "It's nothing, it should be." Elder Amat paused his palm slightly, turned his head and smiled at him. "The final blow was all thanks to you, right? Come on, come over and see if there are any trophies you want." Greet followed his call and walked over. Looking up, various colored lights kept flashing, illuminating the entire cave in a strange way. Under the ancient tree and in front of the cave, there are various strange things piled up. Greet tried hard to identify them. Some might be carapace, some might be claws, and some couldn't tell what they were. Probably, maybe, it's always the fragments dropped by those monsters. While watching, 2 huge mage hands held a large length of dark limbs and floated upward. Along the way, there was blood dripping with black blood and a stinky smell. Greet was still 18 feet away from that thing when he was knocked down by the smoke. Subconsciously, I took 2 steps back and cast a bubble spell on myself, but it couldn't cover the stench. Before he could ask, Elder Emma pointed at the thing and smiled. "Or do you want this? This is the largest piece of limb that fell off the Demon King that was killed today. Can you take it? Maybe it will be useful." "What use do I need it for?" Gretel grimaced. Elder Amat smiled lovingly and shook his head. "This is a demon beyond the legendary level, and it comes from outside this world. It is a rare material. Don't you want to study it? Know its structure, its composition, and its secrets? This. Gretel hesitated. After all, he was really curious. Cutting up a demon king or something was not something he could just happen to have. The question is, can I cut it? It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 1363. During Gretel's advancement, the aftermath of this round of war gradually subsided after half a month. Rescue the wounded, provide follow-up treatment, and bury the dead, hunt down the remaining enemies, clean the battlefield, and collect trophies, organize the terrain, rebuild the defense line, and repair the magic circle. Each piece requires an astonishing amount of work. Even if there are several legendary elders working day and night on the front lines with their disciples, and the magic circle at the rear is also fully cooperating, it still cannot be completed in a day or two. Even so, there is a sense of joy on Yangju Island. During the first full moon period after the war, the Queen even appeared in person to preside over a ceremony. We stand here to mourn the loss of our fellow citizens. On the holy mountain, under the world tree, in the small clearings in the forest, 15 or 6 new tombs are piled with white stones and filled with flowers. In front of each grave, there were 2 to 3 to 7 or 8 elves, supporting each other and sobbing softly. At the moment when the full moon rises and the silver light falls on the tree tops, the Queen arrives in person with the elders and members of the royal family. His soft eyes slowly swept over the family members of the deceased, and he stepped forward, brushing the flowers in front of each grave with his fingertips. Bilian, Veal, Amada, Odile, Canute, they fought bravely, they lived optimistically, and they gave their young lives to Evermeet Island. She sighed and raised her arms to the sky. The silver hair crown on her forehead shone brightly under the moonlight, and the moonstone inlaid on the hair crown cast a hazy brilliance around her body, and then fell to the grave as she rotated. May they ascend to the sky and return to the embrace of Lady Silver Moon, may they be reborn on the world tree and reunite with us. As the Queen spoke, the 2 princesses standing behind her, as well as the young female elves, sang soft melodies. The sound is like ocean waves, like forest waves, like mist, like falling silver moonlight. The wailing voices of the relatives left behind by the deceased grew from small to loud, and then from loud to quiet. In the hazy eyes of tears, it seemed as if I really saw my relatives smiling and waving to them, and then slowly rose up, following the moonlight, and returned to the arms of Ms. Silver Moon. Gretel stood quietly in the crowd, his face slightly pale. Watching the relatives of the deceased helping each other leave, he subconsciously took a step, but was held back by Elder Fahim. Gretel, what are you going to do? It is my fault. Gretel's voice was low and his fists were clenched. It was because I was too reckless and advanced rashly on the edge of the battlefield that they had to fight hard. If I had been more cautious, even if I had retreated a few kilometers back and returned to the area covered by the magic circle. He was speechless for a moment, too sad to speak. Elder Fahim patted him on the shoulder. It's not your fault. If necessary, we have no way to move you back to the center of Yangju Island. On the contrary, it was us who made our own decisions and used you as bait. He put his arm around Greet's shoulders and led him across the woods toward a wider field. After walking around a few ancient trees, my eyes suddenly opened up. In front of the huge square, a palace supported by green trees was clearly in sight. The Queen had changed into a light silver dress and stood high on the palace platform, radiant. She waved her hand downwards, and a little bit of silver light fell down. Everyone who was soothed by the silver light was refreshed and refreshed. Fellow compatriots, a month ago, we won an extremely difficult and important battle. In this battle, we severely injured a demon king, annihilated at least 5 demon leaders, and killed countless demons. After this battle, for at least 100 years, our compatriots will not have to worry about facing powerful enemies every year or every month. We have a long time to study how to seal the cracks and how to cut this cancer. Cheers surged in like waves. From the square in front of the palace, from the wood surrounding the square. The elves shouted, the monsters roared, and the ancient trees shook their branches and leaves, expressing their inner joy. Peace at last. Finally, we no longer have to fight hard, no longer need to be quickly reinforced as soon as the police whistle blows, no longer have to be in fear, no longer have to be bloodlet by demons every month, and year. Even if the vast majority of our compatriots can be saved, and even if they are disabled and their limbs can be regenerated, there will still be compatriots who are particularly unlucky and will sleep on the battlefield forever. Under the auspices of all the elders, with the dedication of many compatriots and many ancient trees, and with the bloody battles and sacrifices of many soldiers, we finally won this battle. Ms. Silver Moon is here, she witnesses our efforts and our glory. Now, rejoice and celebrate. The Queen shouted. In response to her speech, cheerful and lively music sounded in the palace. On the top of the World Tree, people were singing and dancing, and graceful figures were reflected from the sky. All kinds of magical lights roared and exploded, transforming into various shapes of birds, spiritual beasts, and swimming fish. The young and middle-aged elves played the flute, played the lyre, held hands, and danced, and even the old elders lifted their beards and joined the crowd. Look, no matter what, the result is good. Elder Fahim held him in his arms and faced the crowd. After this battle is over, we will have at least 100 years. We don't have to worry about a large-scale attack by demons. We can save too many compatriots, and the fact that this battle went so smoothly and the sacrifices were so few is thanks to your 2 strikes. Greet nodded slightly, still unable to cheer up. The tears of the deceased's family members still swayed before his eyes. Relatives may be sad, but others may also sing. The elves in the square were singing and dancing and had begun to celebrate, but the mourners who had lost their loved ones were far from getting over the pain. However, as elves of the immortal species, it may take more than a few years or decades for them to get over their pain. If he could advance later, if he could be more cautious. Or, at least until Senior Brother's research is completed, the Well of Eternity can be restarted, and the magic circle can support more power. Elder Fahim watched the change in his expression and could only sigh softly, hoping that he would figure it out on his own. Apart from that, the only thing that can help him is to find another topic for him. Actually. Greet stopped and looked at him. Elder Fahim paused, looked up at the palace in the distance, and hesitated to speak. After a moment, he still shook his head and patted Gretel hard. Go and have fun. It's rare to have a celebration, relax your mind and have a good time. Look, how long Cyrilla has been waiting for you. He pushed hard, and Greet staggered and rushed a few steps to the side. He was grabbed by Cyrilla, who was waiting not far away, and dragged to the square. Gretel struggled twice and finally managed to get the right to walk. Just after taking a few steps, a snow-white tern suddenly rushed down, jumped in front of the elder, and landed in human form. Amidst the rustling of the branches and leaves, Gretel vaguely heard the messenger's urgent voice. The eldest prince is not feeling well again, Queen, please. Thanks to @bookfriend 202206021253222547 for the reward of 10,000 starting coins. Thanks to @taxolyang for the 600 starting coins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1364. Gretel, who was pushed out to play at the summer festival, finally found out what happened that day half a month later. The Queen's eldest prince, His Highness Anio, has relapsed into an old illness. Elder Fahim's snow-white thick eyebrows were twisted into a knot, which looked quite sad. Gretel looked at him curiously. Sickness? What kind of disease? Why has it recurred again? In fact, he wanted to ask more, what kind of disease cannot be cured on Yangju Island? As the eldest son of the Elf Queen, there are so many legends living on Evermeet Island, even the Queen herself is a legend. What kind of medical condition does her son not have, and why has it not been cured yet? Is it a problem with the Well of Eternity? The possibility naturally occurred to him. In the great forest, countless warriors went one after another to explore and repair the secret realm. Many of them suffered from tumors caused by radiation and injuries from irreversible genetic collapse. And according to the way the elves tormented the Well of Eternity, it seems that it is not incomprehensible that the eldest prince is suffering from radiation sickness. No, Elder Fahim shook his head solemnly. Following the movement of shaking his head, he looked at Gretel calmly, and then turned back naturally. Speaking of which, the eldest prince's relapse has something to do with Gretel. During the last battle, the magic circle on Evergem Island shook violently, throwing the queen's mental power out of the magic circle network. At the critical moment, it was the eldest Prince Anio who took over the hosting of the magic circle, guiding, sorting out and repairing the entire magic circle. The fierce battle in the second half, and the accompanying tremendous pressure, caused the eldest prince to collapse immediately after the war ended. Prince Anio has been in poor health since he was a child. In other words, he has been in poor health since he was born. The queen happened to experience a war during her pregnancy, and may have been corroded by the evil spirit. That is to say, the fetus was injured during pregnancy or suffered from a congenital disease. It is really not easy to save this pregnancy. Countless congenital diseases flashed through Greet's mind instantly, passing by the parents in the pediatric clinic area holding their children in tears or forcing smiles, or who were completely numb. So, Your Highness, you have a congenital disease. Are there any congenital diseases that these legendary elders cannot cure even if they work together? Are the top treatments useless? Are the limited wish spells useless? Innate immune disease? Congenital heart disease? Congenital kidney disease? Thalassemia? Hemophilia? And those troublesome blood diseases? Epilepsy? Cerebral palsy? Myasthenia gravis? No, wait, in addition to thinking about these diseases, you also have to think about what kind of congenital disease can allow a child to safely grow to 200 years old. Speaking of which, Her Royal Highness the Princess must be at least 200 years old. In short, she fell in love with the teacher 100 years ago. Then the Queen's eldest son is not much younger, he should be about 200 years old, or so, right? In this case, many congenital diseases will be ruled out. Of course, considering the large number of legends on Everlasting Island and the healing skills that sacrifice lives regardless of cost, the survival time limit can be relaxed a little, but it cannot be relaxed too much. In addition, we also need to consider whether there are any diseases unique to elves. He doesn't understand the diseases unique to elves at all. He doesn't understand at all the diseases caused by magic, curses, and demonic aura. In short, the eldest prince has been in poor health since he was born. He can't run, jump, or even laugh wantonly. He gets sick easily and grows slower than children of the same age. When he gets a little older, it sounds like there is a heart disease, but it's hard to say, as many congenital diseases are like this. Gretel frowned and thought, then heard Elder Fahim continue. His body became increasingly unable to carry his spiritual power. Unfortunately, the queen could only let him sleep in the ancient tree, sealing his body for a long time while allowing his spirit to enter the emerald dream. Gretel has seen this method before. In fact, a large number of those seriously injured in the elf forest were sealed in ancient trees for a long time. Within the seal, the body's functions are almost at a standstill, and even injuries can be stabilized. As for the spirit, as long as the Emerald Dream can be regarded as reality, it's actually okay. For many years, the Queen has accompanied him and taught him in the Emerald Dream. When the Queen was away, the eldest prince studied, researched, and fought alone in the Emerald Dream. 200 years. Gretel lost his voice. A person, staying in the Emerald Dream, or a world like a standalone game, for 200 years? Even if someone has been online for several hours every day to accompany him for the past 200 years, the long-term loneliness is not something he can bear. And this great prince, even if he did not last for 200 years, he at least lasted for more than 100 years. Strictly speaking, it's 224 years, Elder Fahim said slowly. It's been a total of 224 years since he was first sealed. During this period, he could only get up and move occasionally. Most of the time he spent in the Emerald Dream, connected to the World Tree and the Magic Circle on Yeongju Island. Therefore, in the past 224 years, the eldest prince has never stopped studying and researching, nor has he stopped growing his mental power. According to the estimation of the elders, his mental power has firmly reached the legendary level. However, his weak body could not support such mental power, forcing him to fall into deep sleep more often. Gretel couldn't help but let out a long sigh. It's both a pity and an admiration for this great prince's perseverance. He raised his head and looked at the tall World Tree in the distance, and also at the foot of the World Tree, where the prince slept. Can I help? If you are willing, I can mention it to the Queen. I guess the Queen doesn't mind having one more person come and take a look. Your healing skills are very special. The Queen has actually wanted to find you for a long time, but she has never been able to disturb your research. Elder Fahim said in a deep voice. For the eldest prince's illness, the Queen has invited all the healers on Evermeet Island over the years. Even I have been invited to see him several times after returning. If you go and see it, that's fine, but don't think that this is a responsibility you have to shoulder. You know, for so many years, so many legendary healers have failed to cure the eldest prince. Greet nodded honestly. Even if it couldn't be cured, he still wanted to see it. At least it would be okay to see rare diseases. His request was quickly approved. 3 days later, under the guidance of Elder Fahim, Gretel once again entered the royal court surrounded by green trees on the World Tree. So what exactly is the disease? The cat cried and gnawed on the book. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 1365. Chapter 1360. Greet, let me examine the patient. How to check this? I didn't want to disturb you. In a small atrium surrounded by green trees and flowing clear springs, the Queen and Greet sat opposite each other, their eyes soft and loving. You are still very young and have your own research direction and learning pace. If you are rashly invited to treat a very difficult to treat patient, it will easily disrupt your plan and affect your growth direction. It's nothing. As long as you don't think I'm presumptuous. Greet smiled slightly. He bowed respectfully to the Queen. Seeing more patients and more difficult and complicated diseases is a rare opportunity for any healer. Whether I can help or not, I hope to see them. So, do you want to read the past records first, or look at Anio first? Gretel hesitated slightly. Reading medical records and past treatment records is indeed the fastest way to understand a patient, but thinking of the treatment records he faced when he first came to the Great Forest and tried to treat Ms. Jasmine's father, Gretel flinched a little. At that time, he could not understand half of the decades of treatment records, various magics, various magic circles, and various runes. Now, there are more than 200 years of treatment records, and most of them were performed by legends. It is estimated that the probability of him understanding those records is much smaller than that of a non-professional reading decades of hospital medical records and surgical records. The electronic medical records printed out by the hospital, no matter what, I still recognize those words. I'd better take a look at His Royal Highness first, he replied cautiously. Read it first to get a preliminary understanding, and then study the treatment records. During this process, you may have to visit several times and do some detailed examinations. The Queen smiled slightly, stood up calmly, and guided Gretel inside. After passing through many corridors and palaces, we walked deeper and deeper, and finally stopped in front of a giant tree. When he is in bad condition, he is usually sealed in the ancient tree and relies on the power of the ancient tree to stay alive. Now, he is in it. As she spoke, the Queen stretched her hands forward, her fingers dancing lightly like flowers, and typed dozens of spells in succession while humming in a low voice. As she moved, a beam of white light quietly lit up in front of her, changing from thin to solid, and from solid to expanding outward. After the last movement, the white light suddenly turned into a milky white light door. Please. The Queen nodded to Gretel, raised her skirt slightly, and stepped into the light door first. The water-like skirt was submerged inch by inch, and the entire light gate did not even have the slightest fluctuation, peacefully accepting the Queen's power. Obviously, the upper limit of this temporary portal, or something else, is so high that passing the legend is not a problem. Greet followed and stepped through the light door. As soon as he entered the door, he was first greeted by a small quiet room. The stream of light fell like rain, gently brushing his whole body, even his hair and soles of his feet. Further forward, another stream of light green light flew towards him, wrapping around him silently. Miraculously, he felt no obstruction at all when he stepped, raised his hands, or even breathed. Is this disinfection? Isolation? Full body protective clothing? Greet speculated silently. If he needs to use this level of protection before going in to see patients, in his previous life, he would have to go to the ICU or even the sterile ward, right? That eldest prince, is his condition so serious? While thinking about it, I walked inside. Passing through the two flowing light curtains and entering the center, Greet saw at first glance a figure lying silently in a huge green seal. Juvenile. Yes, boy. His height is obviously shorter than that of an adult. Between his brows and eyes, there is a delicate and tender look unique to a teenager. The wrists exposed outside the sleeves are visibly slender to the naked eye. The eldest prince is already over 200 years old. Even an elf should have reached adulthood long ago. The physical body is still in the form of a boy, it can only be said that he has been sealed for too long. Greet thought silently and moved closer to take a look. After taking a closer look, he quickly frowned. The young man lying in the seal with his eyes closed, his face was pale and bloodless. The lips might be a little purple, but maybe, he couldn't confirm the color at all through the emerald-like seal. When I bent down and looked at my nails again, it was still a problem. The color cast was so off that I couldn't tell. Alas, this is even more annoying than in the previous life when the patient had to put makeup on his nails. At least makeup and nails can be removed. This kind of seal doesn't even know how to adjust the color. Gretel reached out and touched the huge piece of jade again. The surface was hard and smooth, slightly warm, but he couldn't press it in at all. I tried to cast a monitoring magic, and saw several electrocardiogram probes floating in the air, falling to the surface of the seal, and sliding out. Breathing, blood pressure, blood oxygen, and various vital signs cannot be monitored at all. In other words, when the Queen brought him in and asked him to take a look, it was really just a look through the glass cabinet. This glass cabinet still has a color cast. Otherwise, let's try it with mental power. Let's see if we can penetrate the seal and explore the patient's condition. Oops, this seal is too powerful, and his spiritual power can't penetrate it, or maybe he hasn't found the entrance. So what does it mean that a legend can treat the eldest prince? If you are not a legend, you don't even have the ability to check. The queen stayed quietly beside him, letting him think of ways and attempts, her eyes peaceful and gentle, lingering on her eldest son. He didn't rush or show any anxiety about Grete's actions. After a long while, seeing Gretel leaning aside, looking exhausted, she tilted her head slightly and said softly, "Otherwise, you can talk to him directly. Enter the Emerald Dream and you can see him. If you have any questions, you can ask directly. It would be nice to have a face-to-face consultation, but is it okay?" Grete was at a loss. The Emerald Dream he knew all along was a world belonging to the Nature Walker alone. Can you also go into other people's Emerald Dream and have a chat? The queen can indeed teach the eldest prince in dreams, but is this a royal secret, right? Can you teach him? Ah, this is very simple. It only requires a little trick. The queen smiled slightly. She briefly explained a few words and raised her hand to hold Gretel's right hand. "Come on, this is your first time, I'll take you in." Following her words, Grete concentrated slightly and entered a meditative state, his consciousness rising and rising. Soon, a more majestic, yet gentle and peaceful consciousness swept him away slightly. As his vision dimmed and then brightened, Gretel suddenly found himself on the Yangju Island, at the top of the World Tree. There, a tall, handsome adult man put down the scroll in his hand and turned to look at them. "Mother, did you bring someone here again?" He smiled gently and looked at the queen with a slightly angry look in his eyes. "Actually, there's no need. My situation is just like this. No matter how bad it gets, it can't get any worse. Don't worry too much about me. You've been tired these days and it's time to take a good rest."